Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you very much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take a quick look at Bitcoin here. And obviously, before we do, I like to kind of preface that we did already look at the macro yesterday. So we're probably more so focused on the micro, kind of see what's going on the short term here, just based on the fact that it's been roughly 24 hours since I covered this last, and not much has changed in the big picture. But we've seen a candle wick down here and obviously a test of that support. So I just want to kind of make sure we look at that as well. But kind of point out the obvious before we get started, of course, as well, we got 50-day and the 200-day set moving average trending together here, or soon to come together. Basically, what that just means is when the 200 intersects with the 50, or more so the 50 intersects with the 200 in a downward fashion, that does imply that we're going to see a death cross here soon. And again, I think the likelihood of that being a major catalyst to push the price action down is I guess more so coincidental versus what's going to actually happen this week with the news and CPI data. All that stuff is going to come to fruition here soon, another 24, 48 hours, and we'll find out then exactly what that means. But for now, I think there's a calm before the storm, and we're probably still going to see the the price decrease based on that fact alone. But the bottom line is that the death cross does have a tendency of, I would say 60, 70% of the time, somewhere in that range, roughly, it has a tendency of bringing the price action down further than it would the inverse. Okay. So again, it's not, I don't put a tremendous amount of weight into it, but I do think it's relevant to understand that that is happening. It's very similar to a MACD convergence, right? You got moving averages intersecting in a specific fashion, and that kind of just shows that the tide is shifting, so to speak. The tide's already very, very low, if you will, for Bitcoin. So how much lower can it go? That's kind of the standard theory there. But on the same accord, this could, in fact, push it just a little bit lower. And once again, we do have a support level right around 37,500, next major Fibonacci retracement level, and of course, a previous support. Okay, so just know if we do lose 40,500 as a rough estimate, 40,600 more specifically, then we will see the price come down into that lower range there between 37.5 and 40,500. Okay, so that's kind of the macro overview, you could say. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-hour and see what's going on. Still same scenario here, of course. We got the 50 working its way down. It's probably going to intersect with the price action within the next 24 to 48 hours, pending the price doesn't go down further. So what we're hoping not to have happen is this right here, where the 50 comes down and just holds the price action lower. If the 50 does continue to progress down like it has been, then we will see the price essentially get pushed down. Okay, now that could push us out into the end of the week. I would say more so this Friday or so, we could see the 50-day intersect with the price action. Of course, it all depends on where the price is at that time. But right now, obviously, that's never a good indication. That really just holds the price down and effectively just gives us that bearish sentiment, right? We're still on the wrong side of the tracks, and that's not a great sign. Furthermore, RSI is, yes, bouncing back a little bit, but you can see it came up and got rejected off of 50, which is quite standard considering the fact that we do have a major, key level resistance here right at around, what, 42,700, where the price actions struggled 4 times in the past couple of days. Well, more so the past 3 days, we've seen it test 4 times and still hasn't broken past that level. Okay. So it's a key level resistance zone. I would just say, generally speaking, between 42,200 and 43,000 is that resistance channel. Okay. So again, not like a specific price point per se, but once the price gets into that range, it just keeps getting pushed back down. And as we can see, we lost that potential support. It was only there for about 3 or 4 hours and came down. And just here a moment ago, I think that was roughly about an hour or two ago, we saw the price come down all the way as low as about 39,500 and bounce. So we'll take a closer look at that here in just a moment, but that is essentially what the 4 hour is telling us. Not great stuff, still bearish. This doji candle is nice. It does imply that we have some indecision, so to speak, which is better than a decision to go down, of course. And obviously, if we were taking a look at the volume, see a significant push back up here. And that's the largest volume spike we've had in the most recent past. Okay, so it does tell us we do have a nice buy wall there right around 40,500, or perhaps just say around 40,000 roughly at that point. But there's a good chance it was probably the same exact whale, right? What they do is they just sell their entire position, price comes down, they buy at a lower price point, and then everyone else tries to buy in because it's a lower price point, and then they could and will likely should sell their position again at a higher price. And again, when you're dealing with tens of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, so to speak, a small fluctuation of only 0.5% is a very big profit. Okay, so just keep that in mind. They're making a tremendous amount of money on just doing these sharp sell-offs and then doing a nice little buy, averaging down, so to speak, at a lower price point. And that is essentially kind of what that's telling us. There's no guarantees. There's obviously a lot of factors involved, right? But it's a very common characteristic for a whale to do that. And if you have the control over a market, so to speak, to introduce a bunch of coins into the market and then sell them and buy them at a smaller price point, obviously that's advantageous. And in a consideration here, it's actually very smart because leading up into this resistance level, there's a strong chance they're going to sell again and pushing the price action down further. Okay, so again, just something to consider. That's how volume can kind of speak to us, so to speak. So seeing that large volume spike right there, most people would say that that's advantageous, but in a bearish type of market where we have this extreme fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the likelihood of that coming down lower is still pretty high. Just again, I've seen this happen quite a lot in traditional stock markets, and it's an unfortunate circumstance, but you kind of gotta just sit on the sidelines and wait for it to happen. It's just kind of like watching a train wreck. Just kind of got a lot just to watch and grab some popcorn. I don't know. Anyways, that's kind of where we're at there for the 1 hour in that regard. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the obvious key indicators here. Because I know yesterday we were breaching, or I think we were peaking up over the cloud, and I told you not to get too too excited about that, right? That was just as we peaked over the cloud right here, right at about 10 a.m. So it was roughly 24 hours ago, and the price did eventually break above the cloud. We had the lagging span up above over the price action, and it was looking seemingly quite nice. It's just that we had a lot of resistances above us, right? Death cross, 4-hour simple moving average, the 50 SMA, of course. And obviously not a lot of confidence going into this push. So once again, you never use just the Ichimoku cloud as the key indicator, even though it is a very good indicator, very consistent. That told us that we could have had a buy signal, but I suggested otherwise based on the simple fact that there's a lot of other mitigating factors, things that are kind of pushing the price action down, right? So therefore, even if we were to break back above, which we are tentatively above the cloud right now, I don't see a lot of confidence in that. I don't feel good about that, regardless of where we're at with anything else. Now, granted, the conversion line's below the baseline and the lagging span still within the price action. So we still don't have those other complementing factors, so to speak. For the cloud, we've got 1 out of 3 things potentially. But regardless, never just use the cloud alone as a key indicator. It's just kind of a learning lesson for you if you saw that, and hopefully you didn't act on that prematurely and now you're at a lower price point. But generally speaking, right now, I would say we got to wait for extreme confirmation. And what I mean by extreme is waiting for these moving averages to kind of come below the price action. Let's see what happens when that death cross comes to fruition here in a couple of days. Let's see what happens with the CPI data. And obviously what happens with inflation here in a couple of days. We're not going to be out of the woods yet. I mean, it's going to take a few weeks, of course, for all those meetings to come to full effect, so to speak, which is why I speculate February is going to be a much better month than January. But even still, with just the technical data alone here, we don't have confirmation with this indicator itself, right? We can also look at TD sequential and see that we got a little reset down to an 8, and now we're at a 1. So we do have a potential of a push to the upside, not to rule that out completely. In fact, in the past, you look at this last week, Bitcoin's done fairly well of hitting 8s and 9s. However, with us being at a 1 right now with this significant decrease here, I still don't feel very good about the big picture as far as, or more so the little picture rather. The micro doesn't look great. This is beneficial in a small sense. We do have room for growth, and the price could very well travel up to about 43,000. We could see it come back up, possibly get rejected. I think the likelihood of getting rejected is very high, with this just being a strong resistance channel. And in fact, if we take a look at the volume profile too, we can see the volume is pretty much trending right at this area that we're at right now. So right at about 42,000. So between 42 and 42,200, we're seeing a lot of volume. So that's good in a sense, right? We're building that foundation, that base, but we're still below the price action until we can get the 1-day candlestick to close, just say above 42.2 or 43,000 preferably. We aren't going to really be out of this tentative situation. And with all the news, etc., and those moving averages working their way down, we really got to respect that and just wait for that to kind of become a thing in the past. Okay. Now that 4-hour 50-day SMA should likely drop below the price action if the price continues just to trend sideways within the next 3 or 4 days. And if that were to happen, we can get a little more confidence knowing that we're kind of on the right side of the tracks. And if that death cross comes to a head and there's nothing that happens as a result of it, or just say it comes down and back up again, we'll deal with that when we get there. But for right now, literally, there's no positive sentiment here. Perhaps if you dollar cost averaged closer to 39.5, that good for you. I hope you were able to do that. But even if you didn't, don't feel like you missed out. I don't foresee the price shooting up anytime soon. There's no real key indications here telling us that we have any kind of buy signals, right? Let's take a little bit further here, and let's look at the 15-minute chart, see what the volume weighted average price tells us. We are up over the 15 VWAP, which is traditionally a positive indication that you are in better shape as a day trader, right? So if you're going to be, scalping or day trading, you would have wanted to take entry closer to where the price actually jumped over the VWAP. And if we look at the EMA 15, we can see also that we had this little indication letting us know that we are essentially on the right side there, right? So again, we could literally see 8 more hours of bullish continuation to the upside. How long that will continue is hard to say, but how high it will go is pretty likely going to stay under 43,000. I think once it comes up to this resistance channel here of about 42.2, we're going to get some significant rejection. The price will probably come back down, or if it breaks that plane, 43,000 should hold that in place as well. Because again, we got all the moving averages traveling above the price action right now. It's not a good sign. And even though we have a very, I guess I would say a very tentative buy signal here on the short-term time frame, that's still not enough to feel good about, right? Let's take one last look here, of course, see what happened here. Here's that sell-off and that immediate buyback, right? So again, the likelihood of this being the same exact person or entity is very high. So when you see a sell-off like this occur with this much volume, and then you see an immediate buy shortly after, oftentimes it is the exact same person. So again, I know that seems very speculative. Of course, I didn't look at the level 2 data here to analyze that. I wasn't looking at that live, but in most cases, you see a significant sell-off, a buy-in at a lower price point, the price come right back up. That tells us there's a significant buy wall here, which is good, right? That reiterates the fact that we have probably a strong support level in between 39.5 and 40,500. But it's also not the greatest. This appears to be some type of, I hate to throw the word manipulation out there, but that's really what happens for the most part in the world of Bitcoin. You got to understand that that's a very significant price mover, right? And the key is to understand what they're thinking and to get on board with them. Right now, I think the overall sentiment is that we're still bearish, and I think that this could be a potential bull trap where they jack up the price, have you convinced that it's a nice support level, and then can have a bunch of folks adding to their position at this level, and then of course sell it off. So be cautious in what you're doing. Only dollar cost average if you are to. Do not take any significant long positions. If you have a short-term day trade, definitely consider a tight stop and make sure that you're paying close attention to it, because the bottom could effectively drop out at any moment just based on these sharp increases and decreases. But again, these are just things that I like to look at when I'm swing trading, day trading, etc. And I can tell you that I don't like the look of it. This doesn't feel very good. And I'm not going to feel great until we have confirmation, which to me, again, is the price point averaging itself out on the one-day chart, no less than 42.5, 43,000, right in that range. Because between now and then, we've got a tremendous amount of resistance, both based on volume and moving averages. Not the greatest confidence, so to speak. The thing I will urge you to do is, of course, dollar cost average if you feel like you want to add to your position for Bitcoin. There are very few altcoins right now that are doing very well. Near is one of those, of course, that I picked out on my top 5. And I can identify the fact that that is actually maybe a good consideration for a buy signal there. But outside of that, there's not a tremendous amount right now. You will see a little bit of a bounce back today from some altcoins because of what we saw here. But is this gonna hold true? Is this gonna stay very long term? That's what we need to find out. And I do really think the next 3 or 4 days are going to it's going to be a lot to identify. We're going to be able to see what's going on. That's why I'm keeping a close eye on this for Bitcoin, of course, for my community, and just to make sure that we are all staying on top of this. But I really just think this is like kind of a false positive, and we shouldn't be excited about this at all. Just like yesterday when we broke above resistance, do not get super excited about it. We've got a lot of resistances coming, and we need to respect that and kind of hang tight and just let Bitcoin do its thing for the moment. Okay, so dollar cost average with with caution. Set money aside. Keep your USDT or whatever it is that you're going to plan to use to invest. Just in an account on the side, you should have no less than 50% of your overall portfolio ready to buy the potential dip. So we do get down to 37.5. We'll have a significant amount of sale prices. It'll be Black Friday all over again, like the 5th Black Friday we've experienced in the last 5 weeks, right? and that'll be available to us if the price continues lower, which I personally still feel it's going to come down. That's just my thoughts, just the way that it feels here, and we'll see if that's right. It's one of those scenarios where I hate to be right, but if we were to, we'll just have a better average price, right? So again, keep your money, hold on to it. Nothing wrong with that, right? You got to be patient. You got to learn to sit on your guns and just let these guys fight it out. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next one. I'll go ahead and cover this again tomorrow. Have a good one. Take care.